everybody, it's Miss Caroline. So today we are going to be traveling around the world and making 3 different drinks that are traditional in Italy, Russia, and Mexico. Let's get started. Okay, so the first place we're traveling to is Italy, and we are going to be making Italian cream sodas. Now for these cream sodas, what you'll need is a glass full of ice, club soda, it also works with sparkling water or seltzer, half and half, and some flavored syrups. And today I have raspberry and peach, and you can use one, you can use both. It's really up to you, and there's so many flavors you can choose from. I bet you could even use snow cone syrup if you wanted to, if that's what you have at home. And I also have some fun straws here to use when we're done. The first thing you're gonna need is a glass full of ice. Then what you're gonna wanna add is club soda, and you're gonna wanna fill it about 2/3 of the way up. So almost all the way to the top. Next, you're gonna wanna pick your flavor of syrup. So like I said, I have raspberry and peach here, and I think today I'm gonna go with raspberry. So you're gonna wanna add about 2 tablespoons of this, and you can kind of just eyeball it. And if you want it sweeter, you can add more. If you want it less sweet, you can add less. So it's a very customizable drink. I love the color it adds. And the last thing we're gonna add is our half and half, and that's where the cream of our cream soda is coming from. So again, I'm gonna eyeball this, but if you wanna measure it out, it's about a tablespoon, unless you want a little more creamy. Then again, you can add more. To finish it off, I'm gonna add a little straw. And here we have our raspberry Italian cream soda. Cheers, or as they say in Italy, salud. All right, so now we are traveling to Mexico, and we are going to be making what is called Agua Fresca. Now in Spanish, Agua Fresca simply means fresh water. And so a lot of the times when you see Agua Fresca, it's lemons in water, cucumber, watermelon, strawberries, anything to kind of give fresh water a little extra flavor. But today we're gonna be making a different kind of Agua Fresca. It's more like a slushy, really delicious summertime Agua Fresca. And it includes peaches, pineapple, and limes. So those are some of the ingredients you'll need, but I'll go over all the ingredients right now. So you need 3 ripe peaches, 3 limes, about a cup of cubed pineapple. You need 2 cups of water, a cutting board, knife, and a peeler, because we're going to peel our peaches and we're going to chop them into cubes. And also you're gonna need simple syrup. And so I just made some simple syrup on my stove. So all you need to make this simple syrup is a 1/4 cup of sugar and a 1/4 cup of water. You're gonna combine those in a small saucepan on the stove, whisk them together until the sugar is completely dissolved, let it boil and simmer for just about a minute, turn the heat off, and then put it in your fridge to cool down. So that's where my simple syrup is right now. But let's get started with peeling and chopping our peaches. Okay, so we're gonna start peeling our peaches. Now I'm using one of these hand peelers. You can also just use a knife. Obviously, with our little ones, we want to work in pairs with moms, dads, grandmas, grandpas, aunts, uncles, whoever you're making this fun drink with. You're gonna work in pairs to use this because it does have a little blade in it, so we need to be careful. So when you're peeling, you're just taking the skin off the peach. You don't really wanna go much deeper. So when you peel, that's what you'll see. The peel will come off and you'll see the inside of the peach. All right, so I have my first peach peeled, and I'm gonna go ahead and do my other 2 off camera so we can speed this process up a little bit. All right, we're back and my peaches are peeled. So now we're gonna get into cubing them. And I have the top off of my blender because once they are cubed, I'm gonna plop them right into the blender. And again, we need to be careful with our knives. So if you're a little one, make sure you're working with a bigger person to help you cut. And even if you are a school ager, please still be very careful and use supervision with knives. Okay, so we have all of our peaches cut up and in our blender. So now we are going to add our cup of cubed pineapple, and we're gonna add just 1 of the 2 cups of water into the blender. Lid on, make sure you put it on tight. And then we're gonna blend this until it's a puree. Okay, so we have our peach and pineapple mixture right here, And I have a colander, so it's a mesh colander, so it has the tiny little holes, and a bowl because we are going to pour our mixture in and strain out all the pulp and all the extra fruit chunks that are in there so we have a nice smooth drink. Okay, so now all we have left is our mixture, and it's nice and smooth, but if you can see, it is really thick. So that's why we have our other cup of water. We're gonna go ahead and take a pitcher and we're gonna combine all the rest of our ingredients in here. We're gonna pour our last cup of water in, and we're gonna juice 3 limes and put the juice in. So there is a little trick for lime juice. Take your limes before you juice them and roll them on the table. And you can do the same thing with lemons too. Once you roll it, it softens up so that when you cut your lime, it'll be easier for the juice to come out. So we're gonna do that with all of our limes. And I'm just gonna give them a quick cut on the cutting board and juice them into our pitcher. We're gonna give that all a quick stir with our little spoon. All right, so that's all mixed together. I'm just gonna give it a little taste because I brought out my simple syrup, and that's what's gonna add sweetness. So if I think it's a little too sour or I need a little bit more sugar, I can add the simple syrup. So let's give it a taste. It's pretty good, but I think I am gonna add some simple syrup. All right, I have a glass with a little bit of ice in, so let's pour in our Agua Fresca. I'm gonna add a yellow straw, and let's give it a taste. That is a really, really yummy. Enjoy, you guys. Okay, so now we are over here in my kitchen because for this recipe, we are going to need to use the stove. So this recipe I'm making is called Kompot, and it is traditionally Russian, Ukrainian, very Eastern European recipe. Like I said, we are gonna need the stove for this recipe, so please be careful when you're using the stove because it is going to be hot. And I'm gonna show you what ingredients you're gonna need for this recipe. So what Kompot means is very similar to the English word compote, which is really just cooked or stewed berries. And I love this recipe because it's very versatile and you can kind of use whatever fruit, berries, anything you want to use, and they can be dried, they can be fresh, they can be frozen. So this is a really versatile recipe. And so for this recipe, I have some blackberries, raspberries, blueberries, and strawberries. And I also remembered that over here, I have a couple apples that I've been meaning to use. So I was thinking about maybe putting some apples in too, because like I said, you can put whatever fruit you want into this recipe. So your fruit is going to need to be washed. The strawberries need to be cut into either halves or quarters, and the apples need to be cut up as well. Okay, so I have my berries all washed and they're in this strainer right here. But before we get to cutting our strawberries and our apples, we do want to get our water boiling. So for this recipe, you're going to need 4 quarts of water in a big sauce pot. So let's go ahead and get our water going. All right, I just turned the heat on to about a medium heat, so we're going to wait for that to boil, and while we're waiting, we can go ahead and cut up our strawberries and apples. So we have all of our yummy berries and apples in here, and we're still waiting on our water to boil, so we need to wait a little bit longer. Patience is key in cooking. Now, it's super boring to wait for water to boil, and there's a saying that a watched pot never boils, so instead of watching a pot boil, I think we should have a dance break. Alright, our water is pretty much at a boil, so I'm going to go ahead and add our berries and apples, and it is going to temporarily stop the boiling, so we're going to need to wait for it to start boiling again. Like I said, patience. Okay, now we have to wait for this to come to a boil again before we do anything else. Now once this comes back up to a boil, we're gonna let it simmer, so a light boil, for about 15 to 20 minutes. After those 15 to 20 minutes, we're gonna add a half cup of sugar and stir that all in. Okay, so so now that our sugar is stirred in, you can go ahead and turn off the heat. You're gonna take your pot off of that burner. And it's just gonna cool down enough so that you can strain out all the fruit, because when we strain out all the fruit, it's gonna create a really smooth, just regular juice that won't have all these chunks of fruit in it. Now, if you wanted to leave the fruit in, I don't think there's any issue with that if that's what you wanna do, but I personally am gonna take the fruit out. So like I said, let it cool down to just about room temperature. It can be a little bit warm, but you don't want it too hot. Obviously, it just came off the burner. And then you're gonna strain out the fruit and you're gonna let it chill in the fridge, or you can add some ice to it and you can enjoy. All right, so we have our juice all strained out. I'm gonna pop this in the fridge to let it chill, and we'll have a sip of it later.